For the purpose of your literary research project, you'll need to find 2 scholarly or peer-reviewed articles as your research. Scholarly articles are those published in academic journals. They are generally fairly reliable, in part because they've been reviewed by other experts in the relevant field. At least one of your 2 scholarly articles should be closely related to literature in some way. The other can be from any field. You've probably done some research papers for other classes, so you may be familiar with much of the process. Literary research is not all that different. It's just that your research focuses on literature, and some of what you might be looking for is literary criticism or literary scholarship created by other scholars. Often, instead of data or scientific information, literary research is built on people's interpretations of literature, the ideas that other scholars have developed about literary works, usually by focusing on specific pieces of writing, such as a poem, a story, a film, a novel, or an essay. Not unlike the work that you did in your literary analysis, literary scholars make an argument for a particular approach or reading of a text. But in addition to their own interpretation and analysis, they also incorporate the ideas of other scholars into their argument. One concept that might be useful in understanding how this works is thinking of scholarship as conversation. This idea comes from a literary critic and scholar named Kenneth Burke, and it's basically a framework for understanding the cumulative and generative nature of scholarship, and the way that scholars build on each other's ideas and arguments by engaging in a conversation that takes place through writing over an extended period of time. To explain this concept, Burke uses the metaphor of a party. Say you're going to a party and you get there a little late. Everyone is already engaged in conversation with one another, so you listen for a little while, until you feel ready to enter the conversation by asking a question or making an argument. Others then respond to your question or argument by agreeing or disagreeing or adding to the point that you made. Eventually, some people leave the party to go home, but the conversation continues without them. This is similar to the process of scholarship, in which you read articles to understand the arguments and questions of other scholars, and then write your own paper in which you agree with some of those arguments and disagree with others and pose new questions of your own. Other scholars might do the same thing with your paper, and the process goes on, with each scholar engaging in conversation with those who have come before and those who will follow. I encourage you to think broadly about your project and to search for scholarly articles that can help you think through your topic or support your argument. It may be useful to create a mind map to kind of lay out all of the pieces of your project visually before you begin to search for articles. For example, if your project was focused on Long Division by Chiesi-Limon, you might try searching for an article directly about the book, but you could also look for coming-of-age narratives, time travel narratives, the N-word in literature, first-person narration, an article about the KKK in 1964 Mississippi, an article about Hurricane Katrina, themes in contemporary fiction, time travel science, metafiction, multiple timelines in fiction, or characteristics of postmodern literature. Note that the examples in that orangish red color here are not literary criticism or literary scholarship, but come from another field. But all of the others would count as the literary research part of what you need to do for this project. There are millions of databases you can use to search for materials, and in the bottom section of our Moodle course, you'll find links to many of them, as well as handouts on creating search strings and using Boolean search terms to narrow and refine your search. I just want to highlight a few resources that I think will be particularly useful as you engage in this part of the project. Just like many popular magazines, scholarly journals are often available by subscription only. BCC subscribes to many of the most popular databases that contain scholarly journals. So to access them, you just go to the main library page, enter your search terms here. You can click peer-reviewed if you like, and then click search. And that will take you to Ebsco, which searches all of the different scholarly articles that BCC subscribes to. From here, you can use filters to narrow down your search, access PDFs of specific articles, generate MLA-style citations, and more. The second tool I want to highlight is JSTOR. JSTOR is a digital library that includes access to millions of articles, images, and other resources, including far more literary scholarship than what's available through BCC's databases. And it's free right now due to COVID-19, so take advantage of that for sure. Google Scholar is another great resource. It works just like Google, but it's just for scholarly articles. The upside is that it makes it really easy to find millions of articles about your topic, although the downside is that it doesn't necessarily provide access to those articles. If you find an article you want to use using Google Scholar, you might have to search JSTOR or the BCC library databases in order to find a free copy. Although if you are logged into your BCC student account when you're searching Google Scholar, so log in through the library first and then come here, it will tell you if a full text of the article is available in the BCC library databases. If you're not able to find free access to an article that you want to use through JSTOR or a BCC library, there's still one more option, because as a student researcher, you should never pay to access an article online. Just go back to the BCC library page and scroll down to this library resources section, where you'll find the interlibrary loan form. Fill in as much of this information as you can, and a BCC librarian will order you a copy from another library and just send it directly to your email. This usually takes only a day or two. I would also be happy to meet with any of you individually if you have questions, or if you would just feel more confident if the two of us got this process started together. Just use the link in Moodle or in my email signature to find a time that works, and we'll get into it. One last note. Research is a highly individualized process, so what works for you might not work for others and vice versa. Don't be afraid to take risks and make mistakes along the way, and always feel free to reach out and ask questions if you get stuck.